Hello, and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today, I'll be showing you how to cycle from Chelsea in West Central London to Paddington. This ride takes about 15 minutes, and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport, the same journey takes around 20 minutes and requires you to brave the Circle Line, so getting on your bike is a great way to make this trip. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say my usual huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel on Patreon. If you are feeling generous and you'd like to contribute too, then you can find a link in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting on the corner of Sloane Square and we're going to head down Pavilion Road. I criticise Kensington and Chelsea Council a lot on this channel for good reason, but credit where it's due, Pavilion Road is absolutely lovely. Only a few years ago it was a generic barren back street and it's now a lovely pedestrianised public space. More of this across the borough and indeed the city, please. You are allowed to cycle down here, but it can get a little busy, so you may want to walk your bike. At the very least, go carefully and sensibly while sharing the space with pedestrians. Take the second right here after the end of the pedestrianised bit and head into Cadogan Gate and Cadogan Place. The first section of today's route picks its way through reasonably quiet squares and back streets. These streets do have some through traffic on them, and what you're seeing in the video is very much a best case scenario. It was filmed on a Saturday morning. I've done this route at rush hour on a weekday as well, and there are a few more cars, although it wasn't unbearable by any means. It's not the lowest traffic street, but it's pretty low traffic for this part of town. If you know the area, you'll know what I mean. Crossing Pont Street here is probably the worst bit of the route, and you really just have to wait until all the cars get stuck in a traffic jam and leave you a gap to get across. Fortunately, that happens quite a lot as there are rather a lot of cars in Kensington and Chelsea. We now swing right into Lowndes Street and Lowndes Square. This section of the route is a little bit asymmetrical. If you're doing it in the opposite direction, you'll be coming down the right hand side of the square just there, which we just passed. But in this direction you have to go around the western edge of the square and then loop back at the end. Interestingly, this is the borough boundary between Kensington and Chelsea, which we're in now, and Westminster, which is on the other side of the square. If anyone from Westminster Council is watching, you should absolutely allow two-way cycling on your side of the square. It would be a cheap and quick, easy win to improve the cycle route along here. And it is a cycle route. This is obviously a cycle crossing that leads us straight onto the South Carriage Drive in Hyde Park. You may have also noticed that William Street, which was the street leading to the crossing, was actually blocked off to cars at one end, which keeps the whole square reasonably quiet. So there's definitely a decent inheritance to build on there with the two-way cycling, which Westminster should definitely think about. We are now on Cycleway 3, which is a beautiful protected two-way cycle lane which runs along the southern edge of Hyde Park. This actually stretches all the way out to Canary Wharf or Limehouse or Barking, depending on how you count it in the east. And actually when we get to the end of this cycle lane, it kind of does a bit of a dog leg up towards Paddington, which is what we're going to be following for the rest of the route. Big shout out on the left there to Hyde Park Barracks, a nice modernist building designed by architect Sir Basil Spence. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but I like it. In a strange way, this cycle track has actually been made redundant in the last few years. You may notice that on the left there is no traffic on the road. In fact, that guy's just running down it. That's because the South Carriage Drive was closed to through traffic in 2020, a change which I think has now been made permanent. It's still nice to have a separate lane anyway though. You might have noticed some horses on the right there. That's because there's actually a horse ride between those two lines of trees. It's used both by a riding school which is here and also the soldiers in the barracks. I'm not sure which one that was. Do be careful on this path, by the way. I don't think I've ever cycled down here and not have someone appear out of nowhere at one of the crossings, which is why I was pretty hair trigger at stopping when those two people approached the path. I've used this section of Cycleway 3 before on the channel. I usually turn off left just ahead here and go through Kensington Gardens to get to High Street Kensington. That's what those cycles on the left are doing. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to go north through the park and over the Serpentine on a bridge. One curious and slightly difficult to decode feature on the bridge is this painted lane on the right in a tan colour, which a lot of people mistakenly cycle in because it looks like a cycle lane. But actually, if you look at the ground in a second, it actually says horses only in big white letters. Yes, it is actually a horse lane. It's an extension of the horse ride, and it's there so that horses can get across the bridge without having to mix with traffic. But it rejoins the sandy path there that you can see on the right once we've got over the bridge and disappears. I'm not aware of anywhere else with a horses only lane. If you know of any, do let me know. I am interested. I'm also not sure of the legal status of it because a bridle way you are allowed to cycle on, so presumably it's just sort of advisory. I always think it's just as well that we have our own lane here whenever I cycle down here, because there's pretty much always a traffic jam, which doesn't seem like a great thing to have in the middle of a public park, but at least we don't have to sit in it. I did used to commute through here actually daily on my bike before this lane was built, and let's just say that riding on that street didn't really feel like riding in a park. This next bit is a bit confusing if you don't know what to do. You actually have to turn left and cross the road because the two-way cycle track turns into two one-way cycle tracks, and this one will give you a protected lane out of the park and onto Bayswater Road briefly. Now there's a lot of traffic lights coming up, and I got a green at every single one of them. I've actually complained about the timing of the lights here in previous videos coming up here, and I do wonder whether or not those timings have been tweaked, because it was perfectly fine for me this time. Or maybe I just got lucky, I don't know. If anyone rides through here regularly and remembers what it was like, say, a couple of years ago, I am interested in whether or not there has been a change or whether or not it was just blind luck while I was filming this video. But that set of lights, or I think set of 3 or 4 lights, can actually be quite frustrating when you get caught on a red, at least in my previous experience. Now I'm actually going to dismount here as you can't turn right down Craven Road. I'm just walking on the pavement with my bike here because Paddington Station is literally just there. You could just cycle on this road if you wanted to, but I didn't mind wheeling my bike a few meters. You're going to have to do that anyway when you get to Paddington Station, so a few more meters didn't seem like a really big deal to me. But yeah, anyway, we're here. You can see the Elizabeth Line sign there. That's the side entrance to Paddington Station, which is now probably just as important since the Elizabeth Line opened compared to the other entrance, although they recently rebuilt the other one and it looks pretty decent now. Definitely worth checking out if you're around and you haven't been there for a while. But yeah, thanks for watching that. Do hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed so that the videos from this channel appear on your homepage more often. You could even click the little bell icon so you're alerted to new videos if you really like them. And if you really like the videos, you could join all of the legends on the Patreon who help keep the channel going. Thank you so much to all of you who do that. Let me know in the comments what you think of that. Is it cheeky to call Sloane Square Chelsea? That's one question that's been playing on my mind. It's definitely technically in Chelsea, but you could probably say it's on the fringes as well. You can argue about it in the comments. Oh, and a small housekeeping announcement. I did say a couple of weeks ago that I might miss a few weeks' videos because I am going away. Turns out that I only missed 1 week because I was able to edit this video and the previous video, which went out last week, up in some spare time before I went away. So well done me, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time.